March 22nd, 1997, around 11 p.m., a red pickup truck pulled up to Sandra Gale Ringwald in downtown East Side. It was nasty and it smelled bad. Sandra was addicted to cocaine and heroin, and she also liked speedballs, which is a mix of the two, and injected. The truck's driver asked her how much for a blowjob, and she told him it was $40. He asked how much for a little more. He said he wanted to take her to his place in Coquitlam. She said, "No, that's pretty far out." But the driver said he'd make it 100 and he'd have her back by 1 a.m. Sandra agreed, and she hopped in. The driver told her that everybody there called her Willie, and there were cans of soda in the truck, and she asked if she could have one. Willie said yes. Then she noticed a bra on the floor of the truck, and she picked it up and asked whose that was, and Willie said, "Oh, a working girl must have left it in there." They chatted the rest of the way, but she asked him to stop at a gas station because she needed to go to the bathroom. Willie said they were only 2 minutes from his place. They pulled into the driveway of the farm. They passed a house. Sandra asked who lives there. He told her his brother lived there. They got to the back of the property where there was a trailer. Willie parked and headed for the trailer, and Sandra followed. The place was filthy. Willie said that they were going to the back room. Sandra couldn't believe how disgusting the place was. And they got to the bedroom, and there wasn't even a bed in it. There was a sleeping bag with a thick roll of plastic next to it. Willie handed Sandra $100. They had sex, and it lasted about 5 minutes. When Willie finished, they got up and they got dressed again. She still needed to use the bathroom, so she went in and she started to shoot up a speedball. She asked Willie to use the phone so she could call her boyfriend to let him know that she was heading back. She didn't know the number for the hotel, so she opened up the phone book. While she was looking through it, Willie crept up behind her. She turned around and Willie grabbed her hand and started caressing it, and then he immediately slapped a handcuff on her wrist. She had two options at this point: fight or die. And we'll bring you the rest of this later in the episode when it happens in the timeline. In other words,
put a knife in that.
hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
and beer.
And beer. Just two crazy Florida men drinking beer and talking about true crime because that flows good.
It shall flow.
It floweth.
Shall floweth within.
My cup floweth over. So, welcome to Willie Pickton Part 2. This is the sixth story of the Canada Binge. And in Part 1, we covered Willie's upbringing and early adulthood. While we didn't cover any actual murders by Willie, we did highlight several, multiple signs that he was a brutal serial killer, as well as some of the shady dealings that he was involved with, including a chop shop. God damn it, no. Chop shop that worked with the Hells Angels. Oh boy, and I forgot to do this.
Yeah,
so I forgot to turn on my flashy lights. We also learned that Americans apparently gorged themselves with cherry pie to celebrate George Washington's birthday. I never knew that.
Me neither.
In this episode, what the hell? Hold on. This cord is rubbing on my shoulder, and I can hear it in my headphones.
Oh.
It's annoying as hell. Oh well, I guess it is what it is. I guess I never noticed it before. I guess it's always done it.
Really?
I suppose I could.
There you go. Got an umbilical cord.
Yeah. Well, if I have to get, oh, it slipped. Damn it. All right. I don't know why I never noticed it before. It's futile. Screw it.
There you go. Only you can hear it.
Yeah. I don't know if it obviously does it all the time. I guess I'm just now noticing it for the first time in 2 years. Anyway, this episode we're going to cover some of the murders, and we're going to focus on the victims and the plight of Indigenous women in Canada. But before we get started, what do you think Willie Pickton's favorite movie is? Take a guess.
Shit.
Something that you know about Willie and his personal character.
Silence of the Lambs.
No. That's too literal. It's Dirty Harry.
Dirty.
And he would walk around the farm and everything, and he's like, "Go ahead, make my day." That was his favorite quote.
Oh, okay.
But the Dirty Harry, the irony is not lost on me.
No. He is sure dirty. That is one dirty, filthy SOB.
One dirty dude.
Yeah.
One dirty duck offspring. Quack. The duck was too short-lived in part 1.
Yeah.
But that came from a friend of his, Lisa Yelds, who we're going to talk about later in this episode. She was the one. I think she was the one that he befriended when he was 13 and she was 5, and then they lost contact. I think that's the same girl. I think. Huh. I didn't come across that later on in the book, but that book is like reading an instruction manual for the space shuttle.
Yeah. Every time I hear the word Lisa, it reminds me of some of the skits from Pauly Shore.
Lisa. Yeah. Investigators believe that Willie Pickton began picking up sex workers from Vancouver's downtown east side in early 1975, but women didn't start disappearing until 1979. The first woman to go missing was Louise Grant, who disappeared from the east side in 1984. That's not right. Oh well. She had moved to the U.S. in 1983 and was known to work the east side as well. And she had lost custody of her kids, and that was when she bounced to the U.S. She vanished in 1979, but she wasn't reported missing until 1984. Okay. But in 2006, she surfaced, and she came forward after seeing herself being mentioned in a Willie Pickton story. She's like, "I'm not dead.
Whoa.
I'm not missing." Next was Laura Ma. And she was born March 23rd, 1943. She was a petite Aboriginal woman. She was 42 years old when she disappeared on August 1st, 1985. Next was Cheryl Donahue, who was 39 when she disappeared, and she was from Victoria. She was last seen May 30th, 1985, but was reported missing August 31st. And that's all that's known about them. There's no information on their families or history or anything like that. Just forgotten women that nobody missed, and with the attitude of the mayor and law enforcement, like as we covered in part 1, it's not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a ban on information related to the cases until 1997.
Wow.
March 13th, 1986. 21-year-old Elaine Allenbach vanished. She used several aliases, and her friends believed that she was heading to Seattle when she disappeared. And I figured it out. I know why I said 79, but we covered some missing women in part one.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
was using myself there for a second. I'm like, dude, like, there's no way I messed up that bad. But speaking of Seattle, um, we have more listeners in Seattle than anywhere else in the world.
Mm. And that's across all platforms?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
That's
no,
awesome.
that's from Apple. That's from
That's from
Apple.
Apple, yeah.
Yeah.
Home of one of the homes and areas of the Apple Corporation, Pacific
Yes.
Northwest.
So Seattle, it was just weird because we're from Florida. We we don't even have that many in
Yeah.
our own hometown.
People listen to us because 'cause they're like, "Oh, Florida, I wanna go to Florida. Let's listen to Florida."
Well, we are the number 2 men's podcast in Florida. We are.
Yeah, 2.
Number 2, which is kind of fitting in this case.
Yes, it is.
Anyway,
Very.
for Seattle,
Yeah!
we know where to do our first live event. And that's gonna cost
Yep.
us a hell of a lot of money to get up there and make that happen.
All you, Seattleans up there, give us a shout out.
Yeah, because
You
we
want
just
us to
gave you
come up
one.
there and visit? We'll be happy to visit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2 years later, 15-year-old Teresa Ann Williams disappeared on July 21st, 1988. She was 15, but she already had 2 children. And she had run away from home at 13 with her friend, and she had found her way to downtown East Side. Police found her leg bone in a park near West Coast Reduction,
Mm.
and it was identified years later. So draw your own conclusions there.
She uh, Oink,
Did you
oink.
have a chance to look up Google Maps and check out West Coast Reduction?
I have not yet, but that's, I'm almost
Yeah,
now that you said it, I'm tempting.
it just looks ominous. I mean, it's just and the whole area. It's just it looks exactly like you would picture it.
Ooh.
Well, I don't know how you would picture it, but it looked exactly like I pictured it. In 1989, 34-year-old Elaine Dumba disappeared, and she lived in downtown Eastside and was part of a large family in Saskatchewan. All of the family members were worried about her and they cared about her, and a cousin said that she was dearly loved and that her loss was terrible for the family. The same cousin said years later that the authorities still don't want to talk about it.
Mm.
30-year-old Ingrid Soet from Burnaby had schizophrenia. She disappeared August 28th, 1989, and she had been with her mother that day, said goodbye to her, and then went to see her boyfriend. Her boyfriend never saw her, and she was never seen again. She wasn't a prostitute, and she wasn't on drugs.
Huh.
None of these people's disappearances were very high on the police department's priority list. In the 1970s, the FBI had formed the Behavioral Science Unit with rock star profiler John Douglas. By 1991, the RCMP had put together their own version of BHU with officers trained by the BHU. And they had an emerging rock star profiler of their own named Ron McKay.
Mm.
McKay and the RCMP were disturbed over the Vancouver Police Department's attitude toward all of these missing women, and they were putting pressure on them. And in response, the Vancouver Police Department handed them over case files from 25 missing and or murdered sex workers. They were ordered by the RCMP. They're ordered. Vancouver didn't just say, "Oh, here you go." They had to be ordered to do it.
Yeah.
And while they were trying to figure out how to proceed, another woman vanished.
Mm.
25-year-old Nancy Clark vanished August 22nd, 1991. She was seen around midnight on the street, and she had 2 girls, an 8-year-old and an 8-month-old. Also, August 22nd, the day that she disappeared, was her older daughter's birthday. And
Oh.
they didn't know at this time, but Willie Pickton was in Vancouver at the time on a job with Dave.
Mm.
They had taken separate vehicles. Willie showed up at home the next day. So McKay put together a task force of other profilers. They put the women's files into groups based on links to their cases, and they mapped them out, and they came to a conclusion that there was in fact a serial killer at work, maybe 2. But the Vancouver Police Department and the RCMP weren't convinced. McKay's team got the same type of static that John Douglas and the BHU got early on. They just weren't convinced that you could put together a profile based on the victim's area and other things that had made the BHU responsible for the capture of the likes of Ed Kemper, John Robinson, Ted Bundy, and others. Complete boneheads.
Yeah.
The VPD said it was due to the lack of resources and no roadmap. The profilers didn't tell them what to do next.
Isn't that their job? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if the Canadian version of the BHU is going to tell them what to do next, then what do we need the police department for?
Yeah.
I mean, the BHU is like, this is who you're looking for. Go get him.
Exactly. It's your job.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be proactive. Not only that, you got to take responsibility. And when you got a case, and that's the thing. Detectives, police, it doesn't matter. Your job, especially as a detective, your job is to investigate
Yeah.
and keep it. And I was always told too, is if you can't find a lead, look for one.
Right. I mean, if I lose my car keys, I'm not gonna look at my daughter and say, "Well, I guess we're not going anywhere ever because I can't find my keys."
Yeah.
And they're not miraculously turning up, saying, "Hi, Bill, here's my key. I'm right here.
Yeah. It's
Let's
like most people,
let's
it's
go get a hot
and
dog."
yeah, and it's the lazy people, the lazy individuals that, they expect the evidence to jump out at them, come out of the woodwork. No, you have to look for it.
Yeah, this isn't like CSI where a murder happens overnight and it's solved by 5 o'clock the next day
Yeah.
with a confession.
Yeah. The first 24 hours.
Yeah. That was fitting. That's the only time that's ever been used correctly.
There you go.
But I'm doing my best to put this into a chronological order here. I'm trying to mention things in the order that they happen. And we've talked about how much of a slob Willie was, but Dave wasn't much better. He had his business and he spared every expense by cutting corners. He would bring back chemicals from the construction sites and just dump it on his land rather than dispose of it properly. Scott Chubb, one of Dave's employees, said that they would just mix that stuff in with the topsoil, with the soil that they would ship out of their topsoil business. So I can imagine there were a lot of gardens that died.
Oh, yeah.
Or that wouldn't grow anything. Dave's ways of procuring work trucks and trailers was to take a truck on a test drive from a car dealership, go have a key made, and then late at night go back to the dealership and steal the truck. When I was a car salesman, we never let the people go out on their own in a vehicle that they were test driving. We always had to go with them.
Oh, yeah. Need a witness.
Well, not only that, you're locking down the sale because you've got them in a captive environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had bought a 40 Econoline one time, and I'm out on a test drive and everything. This is when I was playing shows like a lot, and so I need a van to move the equipment around in.
Mhm.
I'm out there on a test drive, and the salesman, he's like, oh, and it has a gas pedal that tilts to accommodate your the angle of your foot that's comfortable for you.
Whoa.
I looked at him. I said, "Really, dude?" I said, are you trying that hard?"
Damn. Mm.
It's like, I suppose next you're going to tell me it has these things that you turn on when it's raining and it wipes the water off of your windshield so that you can see.
Right. Oh, man.
It has windows that go up and down.
They're automatic. Yeah. Now all you gotta do is push a button.
Damn.
Uh,
Yeah. Sometimes people try too hard.
yeah.
So, but the people that Dave would hire would be under the table workers. Dave was a scumbag, but he was smart. He would put low bids on demolition project, but he would still make money because of all the costs that he cut. For example, Chubb said that the truck he drove only had 2 brakes that worked.
Yeah. At least he's got 2,
Yeah.
not 1.
Otherwise, Willie would have to cut holes in the bottom of it, and they'd have to stop it like the Flintstones.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Willie and Dave had figured out a way to work together and stay out of each other's way, but Willie still managed to piss Dave off. Dave was paranoid about the police, and soon they put up fences all around the property, and he soon began going through Willie's things, which of course pissed Willie off, and Dave would retaliate by dumping water on him.
Huh.
Willie liked water touching him as much as a cat does.
Meow.
Meow. Not like a duck, because ducks love the water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Finally, they came to an agreement when Dave brought the trailer that we talked about in part 1 to the property, the one that he had raped that employee in. That became Willie's pad, and that gave Willie a solitude. Willie began a series of women who would be more or less companions to him, helping him out and being his friend. The first was Tanya Carr, and she kept her horse there and then later moved in. She was with Willie for 18 months, and even though they shared a bed, this was not a sexual relationship. Symbiotic is more like it.
Yeah.
The only thing that she knew that Willie was doing with women was a sex worker that he liked, Gina Houston, and she would frequently come over, but she wasn't a typical prostitute. She used her body to get what she wanted from men. She was a con artist. But
he was a player.
Yes, she was just a sex worker with a more finely tuned MO.
She was a businesswoman.
Yeah, exactly. She comes up later. June 6, 1992, 39-year-old Kathleen Watley vanished. She was a black woman, and gentrification had begun happening, and black people began moving to downtown East Side. The plight of indigenous women in Canada was similar to that of black people in the U.S. And 4 months later, October 16th, 1992, 40-year-old Aboriginal woman Elise Sebastian from the Pacheedaht.
Yes.
The Pacheedaht First Nation in West Vancouver. She vanished. She had 4 grown children who were devastated. And then years later, one of her daughters, Anne Marie, posted this poem on a forum. Take it, Paul.
It feels as though my short time with my mother was a dream. Anne Marie wrote on a website devoted to missing women. Slowly fading from my memory, please remember these women were mothers and sisters and friends, and they all had children, husbands, grandchildren who loved them dearly and missed them with all their hearts. I pray daily with God that I pray daily that God will send me a message and let me know when the time is right what happened to my mother. She was not a throwaway junkie and hooker. She was a respected and loving mother and joyous spirit who I will fight for till the day I die.
Damn. I mean, and that just shows you these women weren't throwaway people. These women, they had families and everything. I mean, this isn't like, you know, this isn't like somebody that, sleeps on the sidewalk in Skid Row.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody, I mean, yeah, it was bad there, but I don't know. And I guess Skid Row is a bad analogy too, because everybody that's in Skid Row has family elsewhere too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can't blame anybody for, the conditions that they're forced to work in order to make a living, except for Willie.
Yeah.
But, it's like everybody's got families, everybody's got friends, everybody's got somebody out there, that that they cherish. So
Yeah. But once again, it was like pulling teeth to get the Vancouver Police Department to raise an eyebrow over this. Her sister, Ann Livingston, tried repeatedly to have Elsie logged as a missing person. What the hell did I do here?
something just crickets.
Shit. Who's Elsie? Oh. Okay, I skipped a line before. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about marking that up because you had your monologue in there. Let's just leave it. October 16th, 1992, 40-year-old Aboriginal woman Elsie Sebastian from or Elise Sebastian from the Pachita First Nation in West Vancouver vanished. She had 4 grown children who were devastated. Okay, and then her daughter did the thing that you read. Once again, it was like pulling teeth to get the Vancouver Police Department to raise an eyebrow over this. Her sister, Ann Livingston, tried repeatedly to have Elise logged as a missing person, but it was just crickets. She was told that she wasn't a close enough relative to make a report. She was also told that 40-year-old Native American women don't go missing. Okay, then what would you call it?
Right? Vacation.
They go on a walkabout. No, wait, that's
Yeah.
Australia.
Walkabout.
That's Australia.
They went on holiday.
They went on holiday. That's Britain.
Yeah, but
Next, on April 15th, 1993, 31-year-old Teresa Triff disappeared. A total of 15 women disappeared from between 1979 and 1993, and several more had been found murdered. And these women were one-off murders, and their killers were caught and convicted. So there's a precedence here. The police would work the case if a murdered body was found, but if a woman was missing, she had left of her own accord. December 17th, 1993, 35-year-old Lee Miner called her sister Erin to say that she was coming home for Christmas, which meant that she needed money. She had moved to downtown East Side and began sex work after getting hooked on drugs. And her family was well off too, and they were raising her daughter, who was born in 1986. She was on downtown East Side for less than a year, and Lee never arrived or even called that Christmas. When the family lobbied Vancouver Police Department about her disappearance, the police still weren't interested. The following year, Vancouver Police Department downsized and cut 49 police officers.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but it shows you what their priorities are or are not. To make matters worse, Lee's twin sister Leslie was killed in a car accident 10 months later, and Leslie also had a young son.
Damn.
August 17th, 1994, 17-year-old Angel Arsenault disappeared. And she had been shopping in downtown Vancouver with her boyfriend and got on a bus to go back to Burnaby, and she was never seen again. You just you can just see like just like in the movie, like Star Wars Episode 3, and that scene where like right before Anakin does what he does and everything, you see that scene where he's in one building and Padme's in another, and you just see this ominous music with everything just going by. There's like no clue what's going on, what's
Yeah.
about to happen. You kind of get that feeling. That scene
Mhm.
that scene in that movie was intense.
Yeah.
It's just like all these people just going about their lives. They have no fucking clue what's literally about to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just the music that they put in the backdrop of that was just
Oh,
chills.
yeah.
Chills now, even though I get chills every time I see it and even think about it. And that movie came out in 2003?
Yeah.
2004? But but anyways, 17 disappearances on top of several murders between 1979 and 1994. One officer said that those numbers are unfortunate, but they're about normal for the district, eh?
Ah, jeez. Oh,
It's
that's
normal.
normal.
It's normal, eh?
Man, people are freaking clueless. I know, lazy. They don't not even wanna do their jobs.
Yeah, just give me a donut. I got some fresh made syrup here.
Yeah.
But this isn't just isolated to Canada. This is cops. This is cops everywhere in big cities when it comes
Mm.
to druggies and sex workers.
Yeah, unless you're Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, but he came in with an iron fist and cleaned shit up.
Yeah.
But then again, if you think about that, I mean, some of the people that he did just threw him in jail. Like people like what we're talking about. That didn't do anything good for them. It's just a no-win scenario. I mean, you got the people off the street, but you've just put a Band-Aid on the problem. You haven't
Yeah.
fixed anything. I mean, yeah, for a period, New York City was safe.
Yeah.
But where were all those people? They were in prison. They weren't being rehabilitated or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Over the years, they just started shutting down all the state-run mental hospitals and institutions, and now everybody's out on the street.
Yep. I listened to an episode about Richard Chase. He's somebody that we'll cover at some point. That guy was, they took a different approach. It's like if that guy had just gotten the help that he needed as a kid, none of this happens.
Yeah.
None of what he did happens, and I can kind of see that. And hearing their take on it, it's going to influence how I'm going to cover it too when we
Yeah.
cover that case, because they're right. I don't know when we're going to cover that one. It's a heavy hitter, so I'd like to space those out, and we're doing the heavy hitter right now. But so there's 17 disappearances on top of several solved murders between 79 and 94, and I already said that. Then 1995 came and showed a spike in these numbers, 5 in 1 year. A Jane Doe was found murdered in February. 27-year-old Catherine Gonzalez, who disappeared in March. February 27th. Okay. A Jane Doe was found murdered in February. Then 27-year-old Catherine Gonzalez, she disappeared in March. 27-year-old Catherine Knight, not the Catherine Knight from Australia, who we will cover at some point, but she disappeared in April. 33-year-old Dorothy Spence in July, and 20-year-old Diana Melnick in December. All these women had drug or alcohol issues.
Issues.
issues, and were sex workers. Some had criminal records. Every single one of them had friends and family that they regularly kept in touch with. Catherine Knight's sister Jerry would go get her, clean her up, but she always went back.
Yeah.
4 more women were murdered, and their bodies were found. So 9 in 1 year.
Whoa.
Downtown East Side probably isn't even 5 square miles.
Yeah.
So also 3 more women were found dead in wooded areas outside of Vancouver. These probably weren't Pickton's victims, but they all did live in the downtown East Side. A man named Ronald McCauley was the prime suspect for a while because he had attempted to murder a downtown East Side sex worker when he was out on a jail release program due to violent offender status. That was revoked when he tried to kill a woman that he had picked up from the Astoria Hotel. He shouldn't have been out in the first place.
Yeah.
The Pinky Promise Release Program doesn't work.
Nope.
I don't care what Dick Darwin says.
Yeah, right. I'll let you out on good behavior. What the hell is that? Good behavior.
But this guy had violent offender status.
I know.
According to Morgan, that's like that's their loophole to keep you in prison for life, literally.
Yep.
In Canada, according to Morgan, as we found out on the Marriott's and Melvin's episode.
Yep. I don't know. Maybe you got to start looking at the DAs. I don't know if they have the DAs up there like we do here in the States.
That's the Crown.
Yeah. Crown.
The Crown. But Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, was suspected in over 45 murders in and near Seattle, but they didn't have enough evidence to arrest him. In 1987, he started going to Vancouver. There's no evidence that he killed any women in downtown East Side, but when he was arrested, his truck had area maps in it of Vancouver. But one woman, Renata Bond, said that Ridgway had attacked her and cut her hand with a knife. Her description of the man matched Ridgway, not Pickton. And another sex worker from downtown East Side also described Ridgway, but there's no concrete evidence linking him to downtown East Side, and he never admitted to it. Do I think that he was responsible for some of these women? Yes, I do. Yeah. Especially some of the ones that were found in the woods.
Ooh.
That's another monster of a case. But Willie Pickton was on the police's radar, and once McCauley and Ridgway had been eliminated, there was only one chucklehead left standing. Police and the RCMP were watching the farm mainly because of the drugs, but with all the happenings there, some detectives had their eyes on him for the disappearing women. Willie knew that the police were watching him, so he would go farther away, sometimes go to vehicle auctions and pick up farm-related things, like farther out than normal. And nobody ever disappeared from those areas either. So he was there, but he wasn't doing anything there. He had a hunting ground.
Yeah.
So basically, he's laying low at this point. But he's going to pick up. He'll pick it up. And just the thing with this case is there's a lot of missing women, but there were only 2 survivors. So there's not really much to go on as far as what actually happened to them.
Yeah.
But it's important that we say these people's names, each and every one of them. So, I'm handling this one different than a lot of podcasts do when they cover it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be tedious, but this case is freaking huge. There's a reason why that book is as ginormous as it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd kill an elephant with that book.
Jesus. Yeah.
In 1995, another detective took this case seriously. Kim Rossmo. It was the man. A man named Kim. He had
Yeah,
degrees in
and
criminology, and he was a rising star, although the Vancouver Police Department had the good old boy mindset and fought him at every turn.
of course they did.
Yep. He would ultimately be taken seriously when Willie Pickton was taken down, though, and he went on to be a star in Washington, D.C. and Texas. So once he took down Willie Pickton, he's like, screw y'all, I'm going to the U.S. where they actually appreciate what we do.
Yeah.
Now, he had a long career. Washington, D.C. and Texas. Wonder if he might have been part of the reason why Dick Darwin retired from the force.
Mm. Yeah.
No Dick Darwin in this series.
Mm.
No. The series is long enough as it is. April 6, 1996, 20-year-old France Young disappeared and she was never seen again. A friend, Shelley Morrison, she was a cosmetic salesperson at a drugstore, said that she was the last to see her. Vancouver Police Department told Morrison that there was nothing that they could do, and after constant nagging by Morrison, the Vancouver Police made had a missing poster made. A missing poster, as in one.
Jeez.
And they probably put it in the back of a building that had a fence around its backyard or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. In the post office.
Yeah. We made it, eh? We care.
Yeah.
We're the Vancouver Police Department, eh? October 29th, 1996, 20-year-old Tanya Holk disappeared. She had a baby boy and had shared custody of him with the baby's father. And she had dropped the baby off with her ex for 3 days instead of 2 because she wanted to go to a Halloween party. No problem. But on November 1st, she was supposed to pick her son up, and she didn't. And although she did have issues and was a sex worker, she was a good mom, and she wouldn't have abandoned her son. When her mother reported her missing, Vancouver Police Department said, your daughter is just out having fun. Don't bother us. Don't waste our time.
Mm. Yeah, with all these people, coming up missing and somebody puts in a report. Oh, don't bother us. We're working on some other cases. Not the ones that are currently missing.
You know damn well that if the daughter of one of these police officers went missing in that area, they'd have every cop in the province working it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Even if the girl was a sex worker, they would still all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Kind of like when a little white girl goes missing in the U.S.
Yeah.
By 1996, everybody knew that there was a serial killer on the loose, and the only people who were actually concerned with it were the sex workers. They had put together a bad date list that they would check in with, and they check in with each other, letting them know who they were leaving with and when they got back. This was at the Wish organization, which was basically a safe house. They actually had it there, a physical bad date book.
Wow.
Smart.
Yeah, starting to treat the business like a real business where you're logging in everything.
Yeah, but it didn't make any difference.
Clock in, clock out.
Yeah, Willie was very shrewd. But like I said, most of these women were addicted to various drugs, and this was something that was well known to Willie, and he capitalized on that. And he would provide drugs that would make him more popular to go with, regardless of how dirty he was or how bad he smelled. That would change, though. One woman, Tracy Byen, had a run-in with Willie, and he wasn't on her list of regulars. And one night he pulled up next to her, said he wanted a blowjob, and she said it would be $40. he agreed. She got into the truck, and the smell almost made her say to hell with it. Willie brought her back to her property and into his trailer, which was even worse. And she said that as soon as you got into the kitchen, you couldn't go any farther because there were clothes, boxes, and anything you could imagine blocking the way. Willie wanted to go to the bedroom, but Tracy couldn't get past the mess, so they did their business there in the kitchen.
God.
When they finished and Willie couldn't find his wallet, he accused Tracy of taking it, and he grabbed her purse and started going through it. He pulled out a knife and closed in on her and slashed at her shirt and cut 2 buttons off of it. And Tracy ran out of the trailer, and Willie came out and he gave her back her purse, and he had rage in his eyes in the trailer. But when he came out, he had completely calmed down, just completely flipped the switch, and he's just good old Uncle Willie again. He drove Tracy back to downtown East Side, and all the way back, he was talking about how he liked to help the working girls get off of drugs. He said they got one chance, and if they went back to the drugs, they didn't deserve to live. He said they were useless, and they were better off dead.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a new wrinkle in his MO. He started picking up the girls with the worst habits, and specifically the ones who were actively in withdrawal, after making friends with them and promised to help them get off dope. But Tracy didn't do drugs with customers, and she didn't ask him for drugs, so Willie assumed that she didn't do them. But this incident did land Willie on the bad date list. Lisa Yelds, Willie's best friend, she was ride or die. She didn't judge him, and she was the only person to tell him to take a bath, and she'd tell him he was getting ripe, and he would shoot back telling her that she needed to get outside with her cigarette.
Yeah,
you're gonna smell at my house, eh? Get that cigarette out of here.
Jeez. I'd rather have the cigarette smoke to cover the freaking stench.
Yeah. They would share a bed, and although no sex ever happened between them, she and Dave didn't get along, and they were constantly arguing, and and Lisa would hold her ground. She was afraid of Dave, but she didn't show it. She hated how Dave treated Willie, and one day Dave tried to trip her, and Willie pounced on Dave for doing that. Yeah, it's safe to say that if Willie did love her, and I imagine he did have romantic feelings toward her, but he was afraid to act on them. I mean, he even bought her a brand new Trans Am.
Whoa.
Yeah, with T-tops and.
Huh.
Around this time, I'm glad that they went back to the classic version of the classic looks with the Camaros.
Oh, yeah. They're newer ones though. It's like when they came back out with the Camaro back in 2011, 2010. I got at the time I bought the 2012 when they relaunched it, and they kept a lot of the body style. But then a couple years later, they decided to redesign it, keep the frame, because the frame is actually is the Cadillac, the same frame as the Cadillac.
Really?
And I forgot what model of the Cadillac it was. MTX, MT, something like that. I don't know. But you can see it in the design. Unfortunately, they redesigned it again. And after that, I'm like, nope, I don't like it. Done.
What I think it's funny is like NASCAR is using Mustangs and Camaros now.
Yeah.
But Toyota's still using Camrys. And Dodge is using the Chargers.
Yeah.
But Toyota shouldn't be there anyway. But NASCAR is not NASCAR anymore anyway.
No.
But you got the Mustang, you got the Charger, and you got the Camaro and a Camry. But Toyota wins a lot of races.
Yep. Man.
They need to bring back the Thunderbird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a Thunderbird once. Had a Cougar too. The car.
Yeah.
Had the other kind too. Around this time in the late 80s, early 90s, Dave and the Hells Angels had begun hosting cockfights at their parties. And when the men would get liquored up and wanting sex, Willie would protect Lisa, declaring her off limits. Willie was able to hide his escapades in downtown Eastside with sex workers, and she certainly didn't know that he was a serial killer. He was just a pig man. That's all he'd ever be. I'm a pig man. I'm a pig man. Oh, damn. I wish I had thought about that. I would have made a cover.
Yeah.
A parody of Soul Man.
In there.
Maybe I'll do that for part 3.
There you go.
Or part 4. God.
Ooh.
I haven't ruled out a part 4 yet. I won't know until part 3 is done.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't go 4 parts. But this didn't mean that she was oblivious to his dark side. She later said that he reminded her of Ed Gein, and she never told anybody about that until after Willie had went down. She was a true crime fan, and she read lots of books about him. And Lisa, if you're a CKCB listener, I'd like to interview you on a CKCB features episode. So email me.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I would. If she reached out, I'd interview her in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
She said that she said that she always knew that he could be a serial killer, but she was never afraid of him. She knew that he would never hurt her. In 1995, Dave was demolishing a pub called the Boo Pub, and he had an idea. It was a wild club that even had saddles mounted on the stools.
Yeah.
It was a haven for bikers, drugs, and strippers. A picture of Porky's. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
He was making more money off he was making lots of money off cockfighting, and he figured that he could make a lot more if he owned his own bar. So he was very careful in taking this building down, and everything bar related he kept in good shape and salvaged and brought back to the farm. He got Scott Chubb and a crew together to build the place, and they came up with a name that was a tribute to their deceased and beloved father, Leonard. And what would this place be called?
Piggy Palace, Good Time Society.
Woohoo!
Oink, oink.
Piggy Palace. I'm gonna make an ad for Piggy Palace for the next episode. I'm gonna do it. I'll use my Pee Wee Gaskins voice. Before too long, they had a place with a large bar, tables, dance floor, stage lights, disco ball. They even had a kitchen. It was probably nicer than the Boo Pub.
Yeah.
It could hold 150 people as well, but it held a lot more than that, if you know what I'm saying. Fire code.
Mm-hmm.
Local bands as well as touring bands played there. This band called 24/7. You ever heard of them? Canadian band?
No.
They played there too. There's rumors that Nickelback even played there.
Ooh.
Nickelback is never confirmed or denied.
I wouldn't either. I'd be
like,
I don't know. I don't recall.
Nickelback gets enough of a bad rap. If they admitted to playing at Piggy's Palace, then Cannibal would be added to what people have to say about Nickelback. But punk bands, the Addicts and the Steve Doors even wrote a song called Piggy Palace. And I'm not sure if one band wrote it or if the other band covered it or if the Addicts became the Steve Doors or vice versa. Either way, you can find the song online, and both versions are pretty good. In 1996, the brothers registered their farm with the Canadian government. The Piggy Palace Good Time Society claimed to organize, coordinate, manage, and operate special events, functions, dances, shows, and exhibitions on behalf of service organizations, sports organizations, and other worthy groups. And they even got a tax-exempt status as a charity.
Jeez. Oh, man. Yeah, I guess we can do just about anything.
I wonder if whoever was headed that department in there maybe was a retired Vancouver police officer. The only charity that the money went to was the Pickton's bank accounts. Scott Chubb worked security and the door, and he said that it never pulled in less than 10,000 a night, and some nights it approached 50,000.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, I want to open a bar.
Wow. Huh. That is a lot.
Willie thought that this would be a good time to clean up and find a good woman, a bar at a bar full of drugs and sex workers. Then again, he's not exactly a prize either.
Mm.
He cleaned up and he got a wig from Hair Club for Men. I'm not even kidding. He got a toupee from Hair Club for Men.
Wow, trying to raise the standards.
I'm sure Hair Club for Men was, about as thrilled with that endorsement as Adidas was for Richard Ramirez. Oh man. Ooh. He actually took a shower, he wore clean clothes, and he actually looked attractive. Scott Chubb said that he didn't even recognize the new Willie and almost had a heart attack when he realized it was him. He also bought a new nice trailer and moved it onto the property. Although it didn't take long for the new trailer to get messy, though. And Scott Chubb said that there were clothes all over the place almost immediately, and it just got worse from there.
Hmm.
So apparently, the new Pickton didn't last very long.
Yeah, it was a phase.
Yeah. Before too long, neighbors began complaining, but nothing happened. Piggy's Palace was a hit, and even off-duty police officers went there to party. Ooh. They looked the other way concerning all the drugs and other illegal activities that were going on there. City officials did too. One city council member, Mike Bowen, even rented the place out for an event.
Wow.
Now, if they're making between $10,000 and $50,000 a night, imagine how much it cost to rent it out for a private event.
I can imagine.
Unless it was like during the day on a Sunday or something like that before it opened.
Yeah.
Lisa Yeltsin had moved away at this point, but she stayed in touch. She said Willie was always worried about Piggy's getting busted by the police, and that's when Willie began spending even more time in downtown East Side. Mm-hmm. This was also around the time when his not a prostitute friend Gina Houston showed up on the scene. 1997, the first of the women to go missing from downtown East Side was 48-year-old Native woman Maria Laura Laberte. She disappeared on New Year's Day, but she wasn't reported missing until March 8th of 2002.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That took a long time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
10 days later, 20-year-old Stephanie Lane vanished. She was half Native and half black. She was great in school, but she fell in with a bad crowd. And she was very much loved by her mother. She had a baby boy who was being raised by her mother. Her mother actually went into downtown East Side looking for her. Mm. Valentine's Day had become a day where the sex workers in downtown East Side would hold a march in memory of the women who had disappeared. That year, Sharon Ward disappeared during the march.
What?
Yeah, she had always kept in touch with her family on a regular basis, and on that day it stopped. Huh. God, Willie's got ball. He's bold.
Yeah.
There's a couple things. It's like, when they were putting together that task force that failed miserably, the behavioral science type thing, when all the RCMP officers were in town and everything,
Mhm.
he snatched somebody out, during all that too.
Yeah.
It's like when Danny Rolling robbed that Winn-Dixie when the police were all in that area for a training session.
Yeah. Strategically saw the distraction and took advantage of it.
Yeah. Y'all need to check out the Danny Rolling episode if you haven't, if you're new to the podcast. It's a really good one. It's a long one. I could have done it longer. The episode itself is like 2.5 hours long. And then on our prison tender episode, which is a potpourri episode, I covered Sandra London for 30 minutes. So basically there's 3 hours on Danny Rolling.
Ooh.
I could have done a 2-part, maybe even a 3-part on him.
Yeah.
But that was before we had even, that was before we had done our first 3-part episode. So,
Yeah.
but that was a really good episode, though. One sex worker, 30-year-old Maggie Giselle, she roomed with 25-year-old Kara Ellis at the hotel. That was elegantly nicknamed the Ho Den. Maggie and her twin sister, Lisa, were natives, and they had been left to die in a snowdrift when they were babies, and luckily they were rescued and later adopted. Maggie wound up in the downtown east side at age 15, and she lived there for 15 years. And in March, she had cleaned herself up and gotten out of downtown east side. She wanted to help her best friend Kara do the same, but when she had come back to downtown east side after her rehab, Kara was gone. The police had the attitude of maybe she doesn't want to be found. This was later in March. Or this was in March, and later in March of 1997, March 22nd to be exact, is the date where Willie met Sarah Gale Ringwald. So we're back to the beginning of the episode. Hope y'all like that, but I thought that was a cool way to do it. I might, let us know what you thought about that, and if y'all like that, I'll keep doing that. If it fits, and it definitely fit in this episode, I think. I thought that was pretty cool. But if you don't like us, let us know too, and we won't do it again.
Tell an enemy.
Yeah. I thought it was cool. But so Willie had slapped a handcuff on Sandra's wrist, and she began screaming and went into fight mode. She had seen a knife on the kitchen table, and as Willie was beating her, she edged her way over to the table, and he followed her, pummeling her. She found the knife, but when she grabbed it, the knife slipped and it cut into her hand. But she secured it and swung the knife at Willie, and she slashed at him and caught him across his throat and cheek. And Willie screamed, "You fucking bitch! You got me good, eh?" He grabbed a rag and he pressed it to his neck, and with his other hand he grabbed a stick and hurled it at her. Sandra picked up a potted plant and threw it at Willie. It doesn't say if the potted plant was dead or alive. I bet the potted plant was alive. I bet he took great care of that potted plant.
Yeah. Those real thick clay ones, and it was recently watered, so it made it heavy.
Yeah. Of all the things I lost, what I missed the most was my carnation in the pot that Sandra threw at me.
Right.
Sandra bolted to a door, but it was glued shut. She tried to kick out a window, but it didn't break because it was plexiglass. And Willie was on her again. They were exchanging blows, and they fell, and the fight continued, and they scurried across the filthy floor, and Sandy blacked out, but when she came to, she and Willie were outside by Willie's truck. So she blacked out, but her body kept going.
Mm,
That's interesting detail there.
yeah.
She continued, or Willie was still trying to get the knife from her, and she continued slashing at Willie. And Willie got the knife from Sandy, and he stabbed her twice in the abdomen and in a lung. And he was about to go in for the kill, but suddenly he dropped to the ground unconscious due to blood loss. And Sandra wasn't doing that well either. She also had lost a lot of blood, but she ran to the gate and out into the street. She ran to the nearest house and beat on the door, but nobody answered. She then saw headlights, and as the car went by, she saw a man and a woman in the car. So it wasn't Willie, thankfully, and she flagged them down. The car passed, and it turned around and headed back. They saw a woman practically naked with her guts spilling out and covered with blood, like intestines were like protruding out of her.
Oh.
She still had the knife in her hand, and they're like, "Hey, don't stab us!" But she's this, and she tossed it aside. And they helped her into the car, and she told them that if she died, it was the guy on the property who lived in the trailer who did this to her. And the couple dialed 911 on their cell phone, and within minutes they heard sirens. Sandra passed out, and the man told the police officer what she had told him about the man across the street. At the hospital, it was determined that Sandra would live, and they brought her into the operating room and began, fixing her. But they couldn't help but notice that she had a handcuff on her wrist. About that time, a second stabbing victim had been admitted.
Whoa.
They took off his clothing and they put it in bags for safekeeping, and one of the orderlies found a handcuff key in the man's pocket. On a hunch, they took the key to Sandra, and the key opened the handcuffs. Willie had showed up at the hospital too. They could have gotten him right there. Right then and there, they could have gotten him.
Yeah.
But this, of course, raised questions. Who attacked first? Who was the victim and who was the antagonist? The next day,
Both.
Well, no, Sandra wasn't the antagonist. She was.
Yeah.
It was self-defense.
Yeah.
The next day, the police questioned Sandra, and she told them everything that happened. And also while in the hospital, she, Sandra got detoxed and she got cleaned up. And once she was out, she checked into a methadone clinic. But she did wind up back on the street, but this time as a drug dealer and not a sex worker. And I don't believe that she got back on drugs. But, she's been on the streets her entire life. That's what she knows. And she knows that she can make money as a drug dealer, apparently. So that's what she did. Willie's version of the story was far less detailed. He just said, "Some bitch stabbed me." But neither of them mentioned the sex transaction. Dave hired Lisa Yells to come clean up and take care of Willie. Later, Willie told Lisa the details, still different from Sandra's version. He said, "Take it, Paul."
I was in Vancouver having a little rest in my pickup when this hooker knocks on my window and wakes me up. I ask how much. She says $200. I say, okay. We go back to the trailer. She went into the bedroom and shot up. When she came out, she saw I had $3,400 on the table. There was a knife there. She took the knife and said, "I want my money up front," and grabbed for the money. I tried to take the knife away, and she starts to stab me. So I grabbed the knife and tried to protect myself. She ran out of the trailer and ran to the booze can where the bikers are, and broke a window. Another older couple took her to the hospital. I drove back to the police station. I drove to the police station. I forgot it had moved. So I went to the hospital and nearly bled to death. I needed over 300 stitches. That woman, you don't hear about her at all.
Lisa said it was more like 150 stitches. So that's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Doesn't say how many stitches Sandra needed.
Yeah. That's probably 300.
He then told Lisa to track that bitch down and he would finish this. And Lisa said, just let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go.
A week later, Lisa left to go back home, and Dave never paid her, of course, because Dave is a freaking pud whacker.
Rick.
Pud whacker. I don't think I've said that word since I was 16. Yeah, just 6 years ago. The paper ran the story but didn't name any names, but said that it was said that the 49-year-old man would likely be charged. Willie was charged on April 8th of 1997, one count of attempted murder on Sandra by repeatedly stabbing her and with unlawful confinement and aggravated assault. Willie lawyered up, and the attorney dug up all kinds of dirt on Sandra, but Sandra was afraid of Willie, and she didn't show up at court. So all the charges against Willie were dropped. Lisa Yelds left, and Gina Houston came back, and he told Gina that I don't want you to get the wrong impression about me about what you're reading in the papers there, Gina. But I mean, it wouldn't even mattered because the papers never released his name.
Yeah.
So what are you saying there, Willie? Oh, I got a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I ran a stop sign. Not like my brother. I didn't run anybody over.
Right. Just a minor traffic violation.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want you getting a bad impression of me because of that. Eh?
Don't worry about the dents in the vehicle.
That dent.
Just that one.
Just that one. Oh, boy. Gina was fostering children, and there wasn't enough money to sustain them. Not state-sponsored, though. Gina was still an addict, and other people would drop their kids off and not pay her. And I don't buy this. I mean, I don't buy that she wasn't getting paid. Remember, she's a con artist.
Yeah.
Willie provided food for her, and he would have the kids over at the farm to ride horses and hang out.
Willie really did have a soft spot for kids.
Yeah, he did, surprisingly. I mean, never hurt a kid. He liked kids, you know, so... Raises the question, even the worst parents wouldn't want to bring their kid around Willie.
Yeah.
If they knew. But on the surface, he's just, he's just a weird guy, but, he loves the kids.
Yeah.
He could be a dirty Santa Claus.
Yeah. A badder Santa.
A what?
A badder Santa.
Yeah. Gina was genuine friends with Willie, but she was also using him, and it was symbiotic. But to Gina, it was still a con, even though she did like him. Willie would take her to parties at Piggy's palace, and she drew lots of attention on Willie's arm. But she loved the cocaine. She loved the cocaine. And she'd fight you for it. Scott tried to hit on Gina, but she rejected him. And Dave thought that Gina was only after Willie's money, and Gina doubled down and began telling people that she and Willie were engaged, but they never had sex. She had found women for Willie from downtown East Side, and it was easy to lure them. All she had to do was mention money, booze, and drugs, and they were on board. Although Willie now had a reputation based on what happened with Sandra and with Tracy Byan. So the ones that did agree were the ones that were the worst off.
Mm.
April 23rd, 1997, 28-year-old Kelly Little disappeared. She was a transsexual sex worker, and she had worked under Gina in the past and was living in her apartment in downtown Eastside. Gina said that night she had gotten ready and left and thought that she may have been going to the police, and then she vanished.
I have questions.
Yeah, I do too.
Kind of makes me think Gina knew about Willie and fed her to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I mean, police were probably thinking that too. I mean, not necessarily that fed her to Willie, but maybe thought that Gina had something to do with her disappearance.
Yeah.
They searched her apartment and nothing was found.
Huh.
37-year-old Janet Henry was the next to go missing. June 25th, 1997, she was talking on the phone with her sister. June 28th, she was reported missing. She was also a native, and she had a hell of a childhood and early adulthood. She had lots of siblings, all of which had been put up for adoption. But she was the youngest, but her parents kept her, and although she was able to stay in touch with her siblings, her father was killed when she was a child. And a few years later, her older sister, Lavina, was raped and murdered at 19 years old.
Yeah.
In 1990, a police car hit one of her brothers, Stan, killed him. 1991, Debbie's another sister, Debbie, she committed suicide by ODing on pills. Once Janet became an adult, she was on the streets and addicted and working in downtown Eastside. She had a longtime boyfriend who had gotten her hooked and later into prostitution, and he died of an overdose as well.
Occupational hazards.
Yeah, but I mean, she just, her life was, her life was hell.
Mm-hmm.
All through it.
Yeah.
Some people they just don't have a chance.
Yeah.
And she was one of them. A few months before she disappeared, she was raped and nearly killed by a man named John Sylvie, or John Gary. A few months later, a few months before she disappeared, she was raped and nearly killed by a John named John Gary Sylvie. He was convicted, and she was awarded $3,500 in damages.
Again, damages. Like what? Like,
yeah.
I just never get it when a court rules damages.
John wasn't even imprisoned. Yeah. She was going to the police when she disappeared because she had thought that Sylvia was going to go after her sister Sandra. So he was out. He was out. He shouldn't have been out for attempted murder, rape, and attempted murder. Just a sex worker. No big deal. But here's your $3,500. Go buy a milkshake.
Yeah.
But Sandra, after when she disappeared, Sandra went out and passed out photos of Janet all through downtown Eastside, but nobody had seen anything.
That's not necessarily out of the ordinary. Nobody saw who any of those women left with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and Willie was sly too. However, one of her other sisters said that Janet had told her that she often went to parties at Uncle Willie's place.
when people start mentioning Willie this, Willie that, Willie's place, Uncle Willie,
Yeah,
Willie.
be something there.
Yeah, right? Nobody puts 2 and 2 together.
No.
Hmm. Too much fluoride in the water.
You know, you just reminded me of something. There was an episode of Last Podcast on the Left. I think they were covering one of the California killers during the 80s, or the 70s and 80s. It might have been Richard Ramirez. I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
remember. But they said that it's possible that because that spike of the reason there was all those serial killers in that area, it's like he said at that time, all the water was going through lead pipes.
Ooh.
And they speculated that could have had something to do with it, and it was like affecting people's brains, and it could, and all these, dozens and dozens of like sadistic serial killers could have been a result of lead in the water.
Yeah.
Very plausible.
Very, very plausible. Well, it even affected the police departments, for Christ's sake. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, so it
Wow.
if that's the case, it will never be publicly disclosed, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they do, they will have lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
John Morgan, were you in Los Angeles drinking water and affected by lead pipes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Call us up.
They're international now.
Yeah, that guy's such a fake.
Right.
His yeah, everybody who's listening to this knows who Morgan and Morgan is, because he's everywhere. But not a lot of people know he's headquartered right here in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he grew. In his commercials, I grew up poor. No, you didn't. You took over your dad's firm. I remember seeing commercials when I was a kid for Morgan, Calling, and Gilbert.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, that was his dad.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't grow up poor.
Talk about a lobbyist.
Yeah. It's just, those commercials are annoying anyway. It's just like, but then when I heard that commercial, I was like, you're so full of shit.
Yeah.
I better not say this. You might sue me.
It wasn't for the commercials too. It's all the billboards and radio commercials, television commercials. It's like,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So you people living elsewhere who are sick of hearing his commercials and seeing his billboards, yeah, he lives here.
Yep. Yep. Can't tell you of all the cases he's denied that their firm denied that did hold a lot of water.
Oh, he's good at what he does. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he just, his commercials are so freaking fake. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's a bad attorney or that his practice sucks or anything like that. I'm just, it's just don't be so blatant,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe he figures that there's no native Floridians and that nobody living in the state now was living when his dad had his Morgan, Calling, and Gilbert.
Here's the thing. This is going to sound funny, but it's like, tell the truth.
Yeah.
And it's hard for a lawyer to do that, but you tell the truth. Be honest.
Yeah. It was Morgan, Calling, and Gilbert, then it was Morgan and Calling, and then John Morgan came in, so it was Morgan, and Calling, and now it's just Morgan and Morgan.
Yeah.
So anyway, hashtag, but I digress. Don't sue me, John Morgan. I ain't got anything.
Yeah, neither do I.
But where would I go? Okay. Oh, and no more women disappeared until August of 1997 when 32-year-old Helen Hallmark disappeared. She had a normal upbringing, but she got into drugs in high school. In her late teens, she gave birth to a baby girl who she put up for adoption, and she was already a sex worker at that point. It was likely the baby was an occupational hazard.
Mm.
Um, she tried rehab several times and wound up going back. Next, Jacqueline Murdoch, 27-year-old native from the Carrier Nation and mother of 4, disappeared.
Oh, pretty bold of Willie to be doing this now after what happened to Sandra and Tracy.
Yeah, that's part of why Willie is suspected of having an accomplice.
Gina.
Yeah, it's a fair guess. Yeah.
She had a monetary reasons to help him.
Yeah, but it was never proven. And I honestly think Dave was oblivious to all of this. I don't think Dave killed anybody, or I don't think that he knew it. But Willie was caught in the act leading up to his arrest, but all that will be in part 3.
Mm.
Anyway, people noticed when she disappeared, and she had her kids living with her. She had her kids living with her, so obviously they could have noticed immediately, "Hey, where's mom?"
Yeah.
But her mother took the kids in, and when the police actually did put out posters for her, they actually put out more than one. They used a much older picture of her from before she got into drugs. You just wasted all that ink and paper, because they're not looking for what she looked like currently. They're looking for a Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what she was. That's
Yeah. I don't know why they do that. It's
well, I mean, if they that movie doesn't take place if that story doesn't happen if they used an actual sex worker from the street.
Yeah.
You're not going to find any that look like Julia Roberts.
No.
You can, but you got to go to places like Vegas.
Yeah. Vegas and Atlantic City, maybe.
Places where it's legal.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like some countries where it's an actual business and it is legal, and it's more, they call it an escort service.
Well, I think it should be legal here, like everywhere. Make it a lot safer.
Right?
I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's going to happen anyway. There's a reason why it's called the oldest profession, and it's going to happen anyway. If it's legal, if it's legal, then cases like this don't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you kill one, you're more than likely going to get caught because it's going to be documented who you went with.
Yep. Everything is documented. Like I'm saying, it's a job. You clock in, you clock out.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think for that reason it should be legal. Kind of
where you get a tax stamp.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of lean libertarian on things like that, and even drugs.
Yeah. You legalize certain things, then there's a
You put the
private
cartels,
public regulation on it.
and you put the cartels out of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, what would happen if, like, cocaine or whatever? Oh, I don't see meth ever becoming legal, but but still, if you make cocaine legal, cartels are going to just find something else to do. They're not going to go away. That might actually have something to do with why it's still illegal.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta.
But they already have systems in place to kind of monitor the cartels and have agreements with them and all that stuff. Can you imagine if the cartel, if it went, if cocaine all of a sudden was legalized in the U.S. and the cartels, you would see them coming across the border in places like Juarez and San Diego and stuff like that, and just fucking shit up left and right.
Yeah. Put the DEA out of business unless they become the oversight.
Yeah. But I really do think that there's something to that. A little bit of fear, maybe
True.
not fear, but part of them, they're like, okay, well, if we legalize cocaine, then that's going to piss off the cartels, and the cartels, number one, they're going to kill a whole bunch of people. Number two, they're just going to find something else, and we already kind of have a handle on it somewhat the way it is now, so let's just leave it the way it is now. Not to mention the fact that they can make underhanded money from the cartels as well.
Yeah.
It's not the cocaine. Well, drugs will never be legalized, like in the libertarian stance on it. That'll never happen.
No.
Prostitution might, but not cocaine or heroin.
Not
Or anything
only
like
that, it'll affect, it's systemic. It'll affect the pharmaceutical industries that are making trillions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
A lot of their ingredients are pretty much the same, but it's like that's regulated. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Oh, damn. There's water. Anyway, we're almost done. I'm getting faster at delivering these. I could probably put 10 more pages and still been under 2 hours.
Yeah.
But so by the middle of August, 8 women had disappeared, which was a new record for downtown East Side, and there were still 4 months left in the year. And just like what happened in part 1, I didn't realize we were done. That happened in part 1 too. So we're gonna wrap up part 2 here. That's 2 times in a row that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in part 3, hopefully part 3 is the last one. And actually, you know what? If I'm getting to around this number of pages in part 3, and there's still like a good ways to go, I'm just going to keep going, because if I can get it like maybe 10 more, part 3 is probably going to be the longest episode anyway. So, yeah, I'll go further now that I can knock out 30 pages in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, but we're gonna cover. I mean, there were times when Pickton, when he was like literally walked in on with with a body hanging from in this barn.
Jeez.
But I don't know. But I'm not gonna not cover each and every single one of these victims. I tried that. I try that on all of our episodes.
Yeah.
Like it's if they all they all deserve to. If their names are there, then yeah. If it's a Jane Doe, I'll say it's a Jane Doe. But yeah, and their names are more important than the killer's names, in my opinion.
Yep. Oh yeah. More important.
So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it.
Oh yeah.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and rate and review and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Like, comment, share, follow.
We need Chi Marie 13's comment on Apple to go away. So we need more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still talking about you, Chi Marie 13. Paul's like, I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't on the show then.
No.
Yeah, she called us boring and monotone. I'm not monotone. I do.
Yeah, how's that monotone? Jesus, not like Ben Stein.
Yeah. If you like us, tell a friend. If you hate us, tell an enemy.
Yes, and we will be back next week.
That's monotone, Team Marie 13. But yeah, but please, comment. We got a pretty good star rating on Apple. We just need some more comments to push that one down. We have 2 comments on Apple. 2, just 2. One of them just says great banner, and that's a 5-star. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Oh, and yeah, we love Team Marie 13 too. She's my friend. But anyway, until next week, later.
Later.